But welcome back to the To Be Fair Show. I'm your host, Johnny P.
Old head real.
It's Q.
And we back. Today we going to be continuing our series on marriage. We got the homie
Big
season
brother.
1 guest, Marquette in the building. He going to drop some knowledge on us, give us some, good perspective, good advice.
Yes, sir. Big
I'll
brother.
throw the rail, let him give us a little introduction.
Oh yeah. First off, I appreciate you coming through, brother. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
And I guess to lay the foundation of why we chose you specifically. How long have you been married?
23 years.
23 years. God damn. It's a long time, bro.
It is.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a long time. And I guess I already hop right in. What would you say are some, let's say, pillars that you feel that it takes to withstand, you know what I mean, to actually to keep it together for so long?
Well, of course, this is most obvious. Communication, number one. Ours worked well because we had a friendship, you know.
So you saying like y'all were friends before getting together?
Oh, yeah. Not for a long time. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Basically, a little 60, 90 days.
Oh, okay.
That was
Oh, wow.
enough,
That don't about count, bro.
Yeah, man, that counts.
Because that was you.
Obviously, it counted because it worked.
That definitely
You know what
worked.
I'm saying?
Definitely
So
worked.
it counted,
Hey,
you know.
you got him there.
No. What I don't think I was saying is does that count as a friendship? Is what I was saying. Because
Well-
the intention was there the entire time, right?
Yeah, but it depends on how much you share during that time,
Oh, yeah.
She was the type, she was open book. She shared everything, and so did I.
That's dope.
So it wasn't like,
I
a whole
can
lot
get
of secrets. You know
Right,
what I mean?
right. Nah, that's dope, bro. That's dope. And give me another one. Like I said, you said communication. What would be another one that you would say like, you know?
For the longevity, man, I would say like even if you're talking to even somebody, young or just being in a relationship, be with them for a while before saying, I'm getting married. You know what I mean? Like put a couple years in with them. Live with them. See their habits. Is this something that I can tolerate? Is it, from both sides?
Right.
Sometimes you don't spend no real time with them. I told my daughters and stuff like that, and even my son, hey man, live with them, move in, start sharing finances together. See what it's like to actually share your life, all the way down to the money and everything. Because a lot of times, we're taught, hey, keep your money separate, keep this separate, keep that separate. Well, I mean, for some people that works. For some people that works. I've had friends that idea of it worked for them, But I was just raised differently where, Pop put his check on the table and Mom,
Made it do what it do.
yeah, and that worked for me.
I got one question for you. You say you got how many kids you got?
5.
5. What
Yeah.
age ranges?
Man, you're going to make me do this right now.
You ain't gotta go through.
All right, 28, 27, 25, 16, and what's the last? 14.
Okay, so it's
Seasoned.
yeah, they're older. So this is a question
Yeah.
I think we've had in the past. What's one piece of advice that you would give, like your daughter, let's say, as far as like what she should look for in a partner?
Look for me.
Oh yeah.
Look for me. Look at what you grown accustomed to growing up. See those traits. And because I've always in my house shared my flaws,
Oh yeah.
get with somebody that's going to share their flaws with you.
Transparent.
That's not going to transparency. That's not going to hide that from you. They're going to be upfront about it. They're going to admit to certain things and wanting to have a willingness to learn on how to move beyond it.
So I guess to piggyback or continue on that, you kind of started unpacking it, but you said you want her to look for you. So how would you describe yourself as a partner, as a husband?
That ain't easy. That ain't easy. Especially for a lot of men, the hardest point is to do self-reflection.
Yeah.
A lot of times we only do it when something bad happens. And or we don't know that it's bad until we're actually called out on it. But you have to have that willingness to see it, acknowledge it, reflect on it, and then and then move forward with it, you know. And you want to try to have those traits. Like a lot of times we don't start out with those traits. We learn them as we go, you know. And you got to, I don't know, man. It's, for me, I never been one of those people that's like, I'm so, you know, egotistically stuck in my way towards something.
Yeah.
You know, I always did my best and recognized, you know, ego in men at a young age, and always was willing to like trump that within inside of myself, you know, because that'll show a certain vulnerability about you. And that vulnerability does bring about, you know, power inside your home.
For sure.
It makes you, you know, mentally you're a little bit more stable. You know, you're not so quick to become aggressive all the time, you know. So it's a lot, man. It's a
Gotcha.
lot, you know.
So I got a question too. So to me, it sounds like in this the idea of like the traditional man, right? So he's very quiet. You know what I mean? He pays the bills, but then he's not really an outspoken man. You know what I mean? He's real. What is it? I can't think of the word that I was looking for, but it's just stoic, I believe. I think stoic is the word. Um, and I would agree, but and I would agree with like the idea of what you're saying, because at the end of the day, what you're saying is when you said communication first, and then you said that the one of the things that you would tell your daughter to look for is look for you. You know what I mean? And you what you said was it was about the transparency. It was about pretty much being vulnerable to the people around you that you love, and allowing that to bleed over into them, and kind of uh the idea of like I know sometimes people think like in order to be able to be a leader you have to like show nothing but strength.
Yeah, some form of like hyper masculinity,
Right,
you
right,
know, when
right.
it
So
came to
what would
certain
you say,
things.
how I want to frame this, what would you say is your approach when in communicating with your wife, how like, and how has that like grown over the years?
Just knowing feelings, you know what I mean, and being aware of them. Like to me, you know, there's a difference between feeling certain things in a room and then the emotions, because like a lot of times we categorize women as being more emotional and this and that, and men don't have feelings and all that other stuff. You know what I mean? Where I wasn't raised or taught that way. I was always taught to acknowledge my feelings. You know what I'm saying? And talk them out. You know what I mean? Don't always run to like you know, like I said, like to aggression automatically. Like talk the feelings out, think them out. You know what I mean? So like if you can feel what she's trying to convey to you, you're to me like you're a lot more apt to understanding more. You know, you
Because
don't have to meet her emotionally. You know what I mean? But you gotta feel them.
it
You
goes,
know?
it's empathy.
Yeah, there you go.
You gotta be able to
That's the
empathize
right word.
with your partner. Um, that kind of led me. I had one question because it seemed, and it's something we talk about here, where we talk about modern marriages, traditional marriages. What would you say? You know, your marriage falls in that spectrum.
I don't know. I don't really think I have one like that. Like it's I guess it's a mixture of both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and because both of us, like when we came together, like we both had children from the door, so we instantly had a family. You know what I
I
mean?
got you. So
And when I met her, you know, she's working, I'm working. We're trying to build together. We had common goals. We want to get out of the projects. We want to get a home together. So it took both of us, you know, equally, you know. So the whole modern and traditional and stuff like that, like I don't know, like we just do.
yeah, no, I like
You
that.
know what I
I like
mean?
that.
We just do. We don't get into all that, you know what I mean, as far as like putting it on,
Let me
you
ask you
know.
this. Let me ask you this. How did you guys kind of establish the different roles? Was it just something where people just whoever was best at certain things? Was it
Yeah.
something y'all talked about? How did that look?
Yeah, when you start off and you start off with an instant family. Now, when you don't have children, you don't have those things, I would say it's probably way different, you know. But when you start off the way that we did, it's whoever's best suited for the job, get it done. Get it done. It doesn't matter, you know, well, traditionally, this is what you should be doing. Like I explained to you before, like, dude, I cook all the time, and traditional thought process is she should be doing the cooking. And well, look, man, you work this schedule, I work that schedule. I'm here.
Right, right.
I'm going to do this right here. If it switches up, then we switch up a little bit, and it's about for the greater good of the whole unit. You know what I'm saying? Not just me, not just you. You have to go into it with the mindset. This is why I said even about the finance. It's us. We want to make the team stronger. So if that requires me to make sure some laundry's done or this is taken care of over here, I'm gonna go take care of that. You know what I mean? Just take care of it. You know. And when you see that I'm falling, you step in and pick up. You know. No, and I mean, but even that can breed some things too, because you can start looking at certain things like, well, man, I'm doing this all the time. You know, now that you see that I'm doing it, you ain't even trying to partake in trying to do this now. Even when you do have the time and you see that I'm overworked, that's when you got to fall back into that communication. You got to do it the right way.
Yeah,
You
Bro,
can't let it
that's
build too
deep.
long.
it sounds like a true partnership.
Yeah, it has to
Like,
be. It
and I
has
think
to
it was,
be.
as you were saying, I was thinking like, in that scenario, the person would have to care for you enough to see that you are doing too much and to step in. Or would you say that, or maybe it's about a communication thing? See, like for me, I'm the type of person like I like for you to see this. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to always point something out. Like if you're actually paying attention, I understand communication is like the a thing, and I'm me being honest, I have to get better with it. You know what I mean? Instead of like expecting that your vision to be on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could have things going on in your mind where right at this moment you can't really see. So I could end up getting getting mad about the fact that you aren't adjusting, you know what I mean, when I haven't even communicated it to you. So
Yeah.
that's dope. That's dope.
Yeah,
That
you're
makes
gonna
sense.
you're gonna have times where if you're with somebody long enough, there's gonna, with the way when your life becomes very busy and everybody's trying to get to where they're trying to get to, there's gonna be times where they don't see you, and there's gonna be times where you don't see them, and that's where it starts to become, extremely difficult because that's where, especially for men or even for women too, I won't just categorize one or the other. That's where you'll start to see, you can see dissension start to set in, because you're like, well, you see, I'm taking care of this. You see all that I'm doing. But sometimes you're so wrapped up in why don't you see me that you're not getting to why ain't she seeing me? What is going on with her over there
Oh yeah. Nah, that's
right now that she's not recognizing, you know what I mean? And then we start going, oh, you're taking me for granted and all this,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you have sometimes because you didn't say nothing, you have no idea what's going on over there, you know? And then you got to be careful in the way that you address it, because if you got minor resentment starting to build, depending on which way that you decide to
Just
approach it that day, you may get a different answer you don't like.
you just actually
man.
brought up a wonderful question. So with the fact the season that you got some season in there. What are some ways that you say because like and I think I don't know about like at what time period you want to put on, but like I know I've dealt with like defensiveness. You know what I mean? At the time, like where it's like easily if you're very defensive, then that means that like I don't even want to address it, which probably I mean I ain't gonna say me or a man may not want to even address it because of how defensive you are in response to me just trying to allow you to know something. You know what I mean? That I feel that this needs to be done in a way. What are some, let's say, I guess a strategy, or do you just directly address it, or have you like kind of gotten to a point to where you didn't hone in some skills to where you can make it easier to be
Yeah.
to take.
Well, if you get an opportunity to grow, as men, you get an opportunity to mature, that's number one. The other thing I suggest, if you find yourself doing that, dog, run the other way that day. Take yourself out of the situation for a moment before you decide to go in, because one of the things, like even when we had spoke before, and I'm sitting there thinking, man, what's some of the things on how I was able to make it past this, make it past that? A lot of times it's because I got quiet first. You know what I mean? And took myself out of the situation, and realized, like, you know what it is? And like I brought up, there's a resentment that's building. And this doesn't matter. This doesn't matter if you're in a marriage or if you're just in a regular relationship with anybody. If there is something that is underlying there, no matter how minor it is, like you ever be in a situation where you come walking into a room, like one of the eeriest feelings inside of a marriage or a cohabitating relationship is if somebody walks in the room and you look at them and you have put some time in and you like, I can't stand the way you walk in here. And it's just thought. It's not said.
Right.
It's just thought. You just coming in from doing whatever it is you're doing, you in whatever it is, and that person is going through something, holding something. And the same thing that used to make them be like, oh man, I love when they come in. I love the way that you laugh, When there's a resentment that's there, they can't stand nothing about you.
They hate this.
And you better be smart enough to see it.
Yeah.
And there's times where it's happened to me, and I'm like, I gotta have a conversation with myself, like, dog, she's not feeling you right now.
Gotta hold that laugh in.
She is not feeling you. No matter, even if you ask, hey, babe, something going on and this and that. Nah, nothing. There's your joint right there. You better, and it's hard because now you on them eggshells, and you want to try to figure it out because as men, you're like, all right, now I recognize there's a problem. I need to solve it. I need to solve it. You know what? What I've learned, no, you don't. You need to run. You need to wait for a minute and then come back and reapproach this. Even if it means, and when I mean run, I mean go get in the car for a minute, whatever it is. Hey, you know what? And even if you didn't want to, I don't, and I don't really advocate on telling lies and all like that, but lie right now. Lie right now. Because if you don't, and you decide to go in, you know what I mean? Like, no, we're going to talk about this. We're going to, it's timing. It is timing. It's so key.
Yeah.
Can I ask you this?
Yeah, sorry.
What was it's one of the questions we had queued up.
Before we move from that, 'cause I think he answered that in a really, really good, specific way. Because to me, everything that I heard from what you said was recognizing the why. So, like, if this person is being defensive, it's not specifically just on the fact that she's being defensive. Finding that underlying reason why that person might be defensive, and then thinking through and trying to attack that because the feeling is a feeling that's felt for a reason. Yeah, no. I don't know if you want to kind of go further on that, but I thought that was very like it was a very poignant point, like recognizing the why of why a person might be defensive and not taking that as like a specific character flaw to that person.
Yeah.
And I was just gonna say maybe you could give an example, or maybe if there was like a time in your marriage where you had saw that breaking point, or was there anything specific? Because you gave great advice on that, so I want to see kind of where that came from.
I'm gonna be careful with specifics.
Well, I mean,
you know what I'm saying? Like, because she's not here.
Right.
It may be something that if I decide to go in on, she may not want. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah,
so, like,
yeah,
out of respect for the partner,
totally.
I'll just talk about how, you know what I mean, I would approach a certain, said situation. You can determine if it happened or not. So, it's just, because it can be anything. It can be anything, dog. Like, simple stuff. You outside, you cutting lawn. This person comes to the door and is like, hey, do you want this, that, and the third? And you automatically are like, boom, a switch clicks. Why did it click? Because it's something that happened back in '08 that you thought you figured out, that you talked out, but you really weren't good with a certain thing. And that resentment is still, that underlying is still,
slide.
Even though you talked about it, even though you thought you came to this common, place, you realize, man, you know what? I'm not good with that. And then so much time has passed, you feel like an idiot if you brought it up.
Well, let me ask you
what I
this.
mean?
Let me ask you this, because if you talk about something and then you get to a point, but you're still not good, how would you say you should double back and then
Yeah,
come back
that's
and tell your partner that. I know we talked about this,
hmm
but I'm still not good
and
with how we
that's
left
the
it.
part where I say that you need to go. Meaning you need to leave that situation and you need to go check yourself because you got to decide on what do you really want here. What are you going to accomplish with this? You
Uh-huh.
know, because if you bring back up an old wound that both of you thought you know what I mean, you put it in that box
Yeah.
and you wrapped the chain around it and you dumped
That's
it,
good.
you know, but then your subconscious mind decided to open that box that day out of nowhere.
That's
You
crazy.
know what I mean?
So that might not
So
even be
While you
your
was out there
might not
cutting the
even be your
lawn,
partner. That might just be
it's you in a lot of
damn.
cases.
That's
So I
It's
got a
you in a
question.
lot of cases.
Would you say that that's like one of those pillars that you think that you should stand on? Once something has resolved itself, once we have
that's deep.
resolved, let's not double back and try to make it a thing again. Is that what you're saying? Like, see, you know what I mean? Or are you saying that if or it's pretty much like don't leave the conversation unresolved until it is resolved, and then you don't have to double back? Or do you
Yeah,
think
but
that that's even a thing?
people have levels. Like at that point in time, you can talk through something and you can feel and you really want it to be resolved because you don't want to feel this no more. You know what I'm saying? And you don't want your partner to feel it no more. So you know, there's one thing that my wife and I used to do. We haven't done it in a long time, you know what I mean? But when we hit a very rocky point, you know, back in, you know, the early 2000s and stuff like that, we hopped in the car one day, we took the long ride, you know, and during that time period, we just did a little baby exercise where it's like, I'm going to talk to you as a friend. I'm going to talk to you right now. I'm not your husband. You're not my wife. You're my friend right now. I got this thing that I'm dealing with. And you explain to them exactly what transpired inside that house or whatever. And one of the hardest things to do is to be able to listen to them and take yourself, your egotistical self, out of there to give them advice on how they need to deal with you. That shit was not easy. Excuse me. That was not easy to
No,
do.
no, we
You know,
got you. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
yeah.
But
No,
that
we
wasn't,
good.
and it was a hard thing to get through. You know, because now when you decide to say that line of judgment as a husband, as you know, the father of your children, you can't have that line there. So there's something that you have to do internally to be able to listen. You know, because I want to help you as my friend. I want to give you advice. And then it makes you look at yourself at the same time while you're doing it because you're like, I'm trying to tell her how to deal with me. You know what I mean? But me is not, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it was a very weird exercise to do, but it worked.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
worked because it allowed me to listen to her in a way that I wasn't listening before. And it allowed me to get some stuff off that I didn't even realize that I was keeping in, you know? And I would say even when we did that, man, we did it maybe only 2-3 times, but like just doing that right there, like set us up for like years and years and years, you know, to the point that look, 20 some years later, and I'll bring that up on how influential a moment like that was, you know, that ride to VA was, you know,
And I
because
remember,
Now,
I
now,
remember when you first told me that, bro. I'm glad you brought
yeah,
that up
yeah,
because that was like one of those things that was like
now he's told us about that
yeah,
before.
that
Go
that
ahead.
stood
wasn't
out to
easy.
me.
It
Like,
was not
you know
easy.
what I mean? When I hear wisdom, especially when like that's why I like the 10 year. I like the 10 year relationship, marriage, not even just you know. What I mean, I like the 10 year marriage because the dynamic is different, and there's so many gems and different wisdom that you can get from someone that has that seasoned relationship. Because
Yeah.
I know you know that you've been on the roller coaster. You've been on the roller coaster. A lot of people talk from the space that like you ain't never been on a ride before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you just got on and you ain't even hit the, cause it's still clicking up. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's
depending on
still,
what you ask me, man, I'm on it right
yeah,
now.
click, 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 you know what I mean? It's still there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I like to get it from someone that's been on the ride. You know what I mean? And that's dope because that was something that I had never heard before. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I want to talk to my friend right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anything that comes with all of that emotion, oh, that's
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That
I
ain't what.
need you to listen differently right now.
Yeah, listen differently. That's
And,
exactly yeah.
and was that something that you got, like, was recommended to you,
You
or
know what? I don't know
where'd that come
where
from?
that organically happened for us, you know, because we had been going back and forth, just arguing because financially we wasn't doing all that great, you know, together. kids is growing. We're realizing as young parents, we're being called to be so many things for so many different people that we didn't know what our identities were inside the home. You know what I mean? Like, who's dad, who's mom, who's it? You got to be all these things, you know, and you can get, it's hard sometimes. You get lost in it, you know, and just going back and forth so much. We just happened to be in the car, and it just got to one of the points with inside of arguing where it was just like you want it to stop, but because you're in the whip and you're not in the house, you can't go nowhere. You know what I mean? You're 300 miles away from your crib, and you're like, we got to deal with this. You know, you're here, I'm here, so it was just like, yo, just wait a minute. You stop, I'm gonna stop, you know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna talk to you like this. So it just happened by accident. You know what I mean?
That's dope.
I wish I could say it was like written in a book somewhere that we read and you know, but it wasn't. If it is, well, okay, cool.
Maybe
Good. You
you
know
need
what
to
I
write the
mean?
book.
But you know.
Gotcha. So I guess I want to hop in. One, I think that so far what I've taken, you're almost giving like a master class in communication. Because that's almost what you keep drawing back to is like even that part with the friend thing. It hinges on finding a way to effectively communicate. And it sounds like that's a really big pillar inside your relationship, inside your marriage, is like the communication piece. So I want to segue a little bit and move to it's a little bit different space. But so for me, I coach basketball. We travel a lot. I've coached basketball. And what I found myself, especially within the past 2 years, after the tournaments on that Saturday night, I always intentionally do this, where I find the hotel that got the bar. We always have a bar, and from the parents, it'd be parents from other teams, X, Y, and Z, and I've kind of gotten to like an intentional space of like I'll ask the question, and my question to them usually is, and this is married folks, and I ask them, so what is y'all thing? What's the thing that has been the glue or held the relationship together? So I'd love to hear your response on in your marriage right now. What is y'all thing? What's the thing that connects y'all?
Sense of humor.
There we go.
Our sense of humor is like it's for me it's the best. It works. You know what I mean? She allows me to be me. You know, we're not easily offended by things. You know, so for us, it's definitely the sense of humor because let me tell you something. When you start off and you don't have a lot, you know what I'm saying, and you starting off like, hey, we just got each other. You know, if you don't find your ability to share that laughter, you know, and be able to find it, especially when everything is down. And laugh together, man, like that. Us being able to laugh together through a lot of things is what got us through a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, because when there ain't no laughter up inside the home, man, like, ooh, that's heavy. That's you feel that. Yeah, you better do something about that. You know. But you gotta have it. You gotta have that in your personality. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That has to be in your code. And some people just aren't like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's fine too, you know, but you need to find something that's going to accommodate that, you know, and be smart enough to recognize, like, you know what, you know, maybe you're one of those people that like to take things very, very seriously and very critical. You know, well, if you get a partner that's just on some, I don't give a, you know, when time, yeah, like when on some goofy shit, like when times get really hard, you can't count on that. You're actually going to become more of a hindrance to what's going on now, and now you're a part of the problem, and we don't need that. And that's going to start building certain things, and especially
that's
if you
that's
that
what I was about to
resentment's
say. That
going to start,
resentment you was
it's going
talking
to
about.
come in, you know.
This motherfucker gonna laugh at everything.
Yeah, like this is a joke, you know. So
Mhm.
yeah, be smart enough to, you know. My wife hit me with something long time ago, you know what I'm saying? Because I would try to battle everything, you know, and she was always on some choose your battles. You know what I'm saying? At first, my ego jumped in like, who you talking to like that? Like, I can't, you know what I mean? And I'm like, she's crazy. Talking about who she choose battles and this, and that. And then I thought about it later. I was like, man, she was right. Because where I was about to go, it was really, as time progressed and showed itself to me, that was not worth it.
That's
Counterproductive.
that's
Yeah,
great
yeah.
advice. That's something my grandmother taught
My
me.
That was
mom told
not
me
worth
that
Yeah,
it.
that's
shit
something
too,
my
bro.
grandmother
That
told me
maybe
about
that's a,
that.
a female trait that's handed down, subconsciously, but she was, I give that to her. She was
That's
right.
dope.
She was right there. But, and then again, go ahead and laugh that off, Marquette, and we'll revisit this with a different, through a different lens. You know what I mean?
No, I like that. Because like I said, it's been a question that I've asked, and I always get a different answer. Like one guy, his thing, he said both me and my wife were in finance, so our thing is the money and planning, financial planning, XYZ, and we connect in it. I've had a guy that's kids. Like we connect on like our bond with our kids X, Y, and Z. But I've always gotten a different thing. I think that humor one
Yeah, that
that's a
was
good
ours.
one. Damn, I wanted to go somewhere with it really. Oh, all right, perfect. So hearing you talk, and again, like this is kind of me learning you as through your talking,
Yeah.
and I think that you have an interesting dynamic that I love to kind of unpack a little bit. Where you said that you and your wife came into the marriage with kids from a previous previous relationship. I love to hear your opinion on co-parenting as a married man, and just kind of like some of the goods. Maybe if you feel comfortable enough, the trials and tribulations,
Yeah.
but just your perspective on like that journey of co-parenting as a married man.
I think that that was rough.
Okay.
It still is. There's still conversations that pop up today where, I came in, I had a son that was about a year and a half, almost 2 years old. Her daughter was 5 months old.
Oh wow.
So, and then together, within the first 2 years of us being together, we made a child together, you know. So it was like I had one, she had one, we made one. We automatically, when we moved into our little joint in the projects, we had three.
Right.
You know, they're all in one room. It's 2 bedroom. They're all in one room. We're in the other room, right
And
next.
about how old were you at this time?
22, 21, 22.
Still figuring it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you was young. Y'all was young.
Yeah, but it worked for me though. Like I don't recommend that for everybody, you know what I'm saying? Because the path that I was on, I had my son, I was 18 turning 19 when I had him. And my son knows this because I tell him, I'm like, dude, you saved my life, dog. You made me care about something, because I was just in a different space. And trying to figure yourself out as a man, like what am I going to do when the other things fell through that you thought you was going to do, and it was just like, dude, you're supposed to be a dad. That's what you're supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? Are you supposed to be a husband too? And it's, I don't know. We're going to figure that part out. But I knew then, like, nah, you're supposed to be a dad, because it clicked right away. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was no, oh, well, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I may be by to pick him up and all this stuff. Like, nah, I wasn't like that. I was like, he's mine. He's coming with me. There is no, and if and I had the mentality where, and this caused a lot of friction too, where I didn't want my son's mom involved at all. I didn't want her around at all. I would not have cared and still didn't if she would have been like, here, you take him. I would have been like, all right, cool. You know what I'm saying? Because I had already found somebody that I thought was a good foundation as a mother figure to be with him.
Got you.
And I knew that that was part of my responsibility. Not like, oh, I can do all this, because I knew I couldn't do it all. But
crazy
the
you
biggest
said
part
that.
was for me to make sure that I put my mate needed to be a real mom. And by her having a kid already and taking care of that when I met her, it already, like, I ain't had to ask the question.
That's something.
It was already being shown that you can do the job. You made it easier for me, actually. You know what I mean? Because you were already taken care, and you didn't have, like, I didn't have to deal with a baby's dad or anything like that, because he was already off anyway. And she was the type on some, I don't need him to be here. So we actually both had the same mentality without us knowing. Like, we're willing to take on
Let
this,
me let me ask you something, because I was, when you was talking about both of y'all had kids going on, and did that kind of help make the decision for y'all to go ahead and take that step and get married? Did that play a role? I mean, well, you kind of answered it, but when you talk when he was talking when we were talking about that thing is like y'all being parents.
Yeah.
Is that part of that thing?
No, it didn't. It didn't go that way with us. You know, we moved in. We were together for about 4 years before we even really said anything about marriage.
Oh wow.
We were already living together like we was
Okay.
married anyway. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So a major difference with all that was though is my parents was married 53 years.
Ooh.
You know what I'm
Clap it up for
saying?
that.
No, for
Her
sure.
parents are married 50 plus. I think they're around
Clap it up for
53
that.
as well. You know.
That's what's up.
And if my mom wouldn't have passed, my mom and dad would probably still be married. You know what I'm saying? So we actually both came from that.
That foundation.
You know what I'm saying? So it was like it was probably already in us whether we knew it or not. That's why we didn't have to talk about it because we meshed into something that we were actually already accustomed to. You know, that's why when we talked about earlier, and we said, "What do you tell your daughter?" And I say, "Find me." You know what I'm saying? Because that's what I found. I brought it up one time before. I was like, "Yeah, I married." No, it sounds weird, but I was like, I did marry my mom because that's exactly who this woman acts like.
You said that last time.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I thought about it later and was like, that just sounded weird. But I'm
You said
like,
that last
but
time.
you know, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it really, that's really what it was. And it did bring about challenges, believe me, with having her child here, mine, you know, because there is just that. There's a hers, mine thing that's under there that sometimes, you know, you're sitting there and you're like, especially after you get in, you got a couple years. Like there's a couple times where I know when I went to discipline, I looked over, you know, after disciplining her daughter,
Yeah.
that I seen a face, you know, where it was just like, you know, like, but you can see, you know, and there's times where she disciplined my son. Like we've gotten into plenty
So,
of arguments, boy.
again, to me right now, I'm unpacking and learning like your marriage. And it sounds like well, you kind of said that y'all lived together for about 4 years. Uh, and I know the cohabitation conversation is kind of like one of those ones that kind of goes. It can kind of go either way. A lot of times, people have strong opinions on either or. Would you recommend a couple that is serious about marriage cohabitating first?
Oh yeah.
Shacking up.
Yeah, yeah, they call it.
That's what they call it. Shacking up. My
Yeah,
mom used to say that too.
for some people they may have like there could be traditional or religious beliefs that stop people from doing certain things such as that. And I mean if that's what works for you, okay, cool. You know what I'm saying? That's not something that I recommend because of the time period that we're in. You know what I'm saying? And how things have changed so much.
For sure.
Divorce rates, you know, men or women, somebody loses half of this or half of that of what they built, you know, because of falling in love with somebody that, you know, was under the wrong pretense or whatever. You know, you moving in and living with somebody for a period of time, seeing how they move financially, how they, you know, how they wash, you know what I'm saying? Like I really feel like, and that's why I said, I told my kid, man, if you know, if you're ready to go to that level with somebody, you know what I mean? Yeah, go ahead and get that apartment. Go ahead and get that apartment. You need to be around this person when life takes a certain turn and all of a sudden he lost the job and now everything's on you. And you got these 3 kids running around here. You know, you need to see what does that do to him? What's that going to do to you? Because if you just jump in or if he just has his own all the time and you got your own all the time and the only thing you're sharing together is now what? Sex? Okay. That's going to only going to get you so far. You know what I'm saying? That'll take care of an immediate need, but that's not what's going to sustain you. Anybody that's been together long enough already knows that part.
So what
You know what I mean?
sustains? So what that I think that was I'm glad you said that. So what do you feel sustains it?
Your resiliency as a couple to get through hard times together.
Or you want to.
You know what I mean? Yeah, your want, your why, your this, you know what I mean? And that is shared between the both of you. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes you can be trying very hard at something and your partner doesn't see it that way. You know what I mean? So then it looks, you know, to them that you're not trying at something, but you know you are. You know what I mean? And that'll lead you, you know, well that's a whole nother thing. But
No, that's the
know.
real. You know what I mean? That's the real life of it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's
Yeah,
the real life of it. So like, yeah, nah, I
I was gonna say
respect it.
let me because I'm single out here. I was gonna say what's one advice as a married man that you would give a single guy that might be just out here maybe looking
yeah, yeah.
to get married or just exploring the possibility and the reason I asked that because I got married friends at work and the common sentiment you hear is a young blood don't go get me like you always hear the
Yeah,
horror stories. So what's one piece of advice you give a single guy as a married man that I feel like has
yeah.
been pretty
I like being
successful?
married though. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not going to be one of the people that is probably going to tell you that aspect.
Right.
You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Because I love the imperfection of my marriages too. You know what I'm saying? Like with everything that bad that happened, something great came out of it later.
Artist.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe not when I wanted it to. I wanted it to come a little bit earlier and didn't want to have to go through that. But advice to a single dude, man, like I don't know. Because of my age and being in a long term marriage, I don't really think that I can give a good advice. Give good advice on that
No,
on
no.
that
Makes
level
sense.
because that's never been my. I don't want
Yeah,
to say never been my life, but that was my life as a youth, and with
yeah.
being
You got
married so
married so
long,
early,
yeah,
As
I
an
can't.
adult,
or
you never.
dated
Or
And
just
then with
for so
times
long. But
changing too, like,
yeah, and I
how do you?
wouldn't.
it's
Yeah,
such a valid
I
perspective. Nothing
wouldn't
wrong with
be
it.
able to. I'm not qualified for that
Oh no,
one. You know what
no.
I mean?
Hey, respect.
Yeah, I'm not.
A
Nah, that's
respectful.
no.
Not.
I wouldn't want to be single right now. I wouldn't.
it's a
That's
shame.
just me. That's
It's a
just me.
shame.
I just seeing what's going on and how things have moved. Like that's not a cup I want to drink from.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
man.
agree.
You know what I'm saying?
Um, where did I want to go with it? Again, I think that, like I said, for me, this is an unpacking journey. And I think earlier you kind of mentioned so inside the structure of your family, both you and your wife work, correct? Um, let me see how I can frame this. I guess I'll start it here. Do you think that there are difficulties that come with dating a working woman, or do you see that as a benefit?
That's a good question.
Well, dating. Well,
Or,
we was
or I,
like,
well, I guess if we want to fast forward to
yeah,
being married,
yeah. I mean,
being in a
it's.
relationship with
Do I see a
a working.
benefit to it? Yeah,
Okay.
because you need to be doing something with yourself. Like I can reflect to different time periods where, let's say, careers change, jobs change. Someone's laid off for 6 to 8 months. They're home all the time. You know what I'm saying? Doing nothing or doing whatever. You know what I'm saying? Depending on the type of person you have there, are they pursuing their dreams? You know what I'm saying? Are they getting into something that all that can play a role. I think you need that time, that separation. Sometimes that work can help give you. You know what I'm saying? To be able to fix some of the day to day stuff because if you're coming into a home, like I'll speak from when I was laid off, and I was home all the time. Like that's some of the times we got into our worst arguments because I was home all the time. You would have thought that would be a better time because we can spend more time together. You know what I mean? And you'll realize within inside of a couple when you're putting in time, you're cohabitating, you do need some form of separation, even if it is for the 8 to 10 hours that work may bring. You know, it's just like with anything else. Even if you ever have a homeboy that you living with, and you come home from work and he's there all day long doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? Or you perceive it as doing nothing because they're in the same position they was when you left.
Still on the game.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I've had that happen. So yeah, I'm fully go ahead and get a job. You know what I'm saying? Go to work, and then whatever's going on when you come back, share it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Share that with me. Share to me with me your experience. What'd you go through today? What happened?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like
No, I like
talk
that.
about it.
So I was having a conversation with somebody last night, actually. And we got to the happy wife, happy life space. Uh, in which, to me, I think that happy people, happy
Yeah,
relationship.
I was gonna say I'll subscribe to
More than
that.
that, so kind of making this a little more specific to you. Um, you got married or y'all dated really really early. Y'all relationship started really really early. Um, how did you learn how to make your wife happy? Yeah, I'll kind of leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I fully accomplished that sometimes. You
Hmm.
know what I mean?
Hmm.
I know when there's moments where I thought I was making you happy, you know what I mean? Only to
Mm-hmm.
find out I was horribly wrong.
Cool.
You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So that's where that listening
Uh-huh.
part comes in, especially if you're getting the same discussion is starting to resurface month after month, year after year, this, and that. You know what I mean? Obviously, there is something that you are not keying on.
Hmm.
And I think that I got fortunate there because, you know, she would have to say, do I help make her happy? Because I was always on I never left it up to my wife as that responsibility for her to make me happy
Hmm.
because I don't think that's fair.
Hmm.
I never thought that was fair, that I leave the responsibility up for you to make me happy.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I'm
I
saying?
think G
That's
said that as well.
that's why I never
Good point.
subscribed to that whole, happy wife,
Mm-hmm.
happy life. To me, that's a very, I don't know. To me, that's some simp shit that I just never got into,
I agree.
you
To me,
know.
that's one of those ones like how they use like the patriarchy word, and they use like
Mm,
the like I think so much of that is rooted in the idea of the man that doesn't show emotion and his feelings doesn't matter at all.
mm-hmm,
And you just come put the check down and then you leave and you go in that room and whatever.
yeah.
But I don't think that really applies inside modern relationships because of everybody wants and is in the pursuit of their own happiness and the happiness of the relationship.
Yeah,
Like it's not
because
a solo thing.
women viewed men differently when that time period was going on.
Yes. Yep.
They
Yep. Yep.
actually, like, I watched my mom value my father as a provider.
Hmm.
Valued that he went out and did, work 21 days straight and put in these hours and this and
Mm-hmm.
that. So,
Hmm.
with the change and everything, there's been a change in, in female psyche as well. It's not just all the dude, and a lot of
Facts.
people want to put it on like the man needs to shift this way, man needs to shift that way. Well, you know what? You view us differently.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
You don't view me the same way that my mom viewed my dad. You know what I'm saying? So,
So I think that being the fact that you do have a tenured relationship, a relationship that has, in Rail's words, some seasoning. I like to ask this question. So, what are some techniques? And maybe you might have answered this a little bit earlier,
mm,
but I think one of the biggest parts of being inside a long term relationship is the overcoming the hard time.
mm,
Um, and I know that you've given the idea of let me talk to my friend. And I think that that's a great one.
mm,
Um, I like to hear you go a little bit more into like that space, just because I think that a lot of people, whether it's marriage or relationships, X, Y, and Z, the hard time is going to come.
oh yeah.
Um, and is there any techniques, any thoughts, any perspective on overcoming the hard time?
Some of that it has to already be in your code. You know what I mean? It has to be in you in your DNA first.
Hmm.
Sometimes you can try to give as much advice on something as you want to, but if a certain type of person just wired differently, they're going to accept that information differently. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I was always just one of those people, and I think because I grew up seeing my dad, like my mom was the one that was aggressive and live wired and stuff like that, where my father was a lot more passive.
Hmm.
And I knew that me coming up that I was the mixture of both.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a challenge, like to know when to be this and to know when to be that. So whenever I felt myself with inside of, a hard time or something like that being triggered inside my marriage, I automatically would reflect to what I thought I saw or how I interpreted what I saw when I was a kid. I would see Pop restrain first, you know, and then approach. And it would always bring about, now depending on what's going on, you may get, but I always practice restrain first.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Especially inside my house. Outside the house, there's a lot of different ways where I don't restrain. But I always knew I wanted to have peace inside my house. I wanted peace with my wife no matter what was going on. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, again, it's just almost like with being happy. Check yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And a lot of other things will start to fall in place for you. You know, I can't control how you're going to perceive certain information. Just like I don't want to be the one liable for you to be sitting around with your lip poked out. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you're like that, then you're choosing to be that way. I'm choosing not to. You know what I'm saying? Depending on the scenario, of course. You know. So just man, you got to know yourself. You got to know what you are, what you bring to the table, and know what the other person is. And if they're not that, then you got to decide: is this something that I'm willing to accept to live with?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's a lot of ways where I looked at certain scenarios where it's like, well, she acts this way, she acts that way. Well, she was always that way. What are you going to do with it? Either you're going to accept this part of learning, or you're going to give that person the space to learn. You know what I mean? And then what are you projecting for them to learn you from? You know what I'm saying? Like it's a lot of it is to the longevity in certain things. Whether it's marriage, is always been for me. My opinion has always been a self-reflection first. I don't care what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? This just happens to be in a marriage. You may have to do that with your job. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. So
So I want to
I
change
don't
gears a
know
little
if
bit.
that's
Oh no, no,
you
I
know what I'm
think
saying.
no,
Like,
I think that was a great answer for sure, or great perspective because it's not more than an answer. You live
yeah.
it. I want to kind of switch it up a little bit and change gears. I see this as like one of those social media low hanging fruit conversations that you get a lot, or you hear a lot, or you scroll down your timeline and you see a lot,
Mm-hmm.
right? It deals with the finance portion. I think that what's her name? Gabrielle Union was recently quoted saying
Mm-hmm.
that like she was paying most of the bills, so she ain't have a problem cheating on a nigga.
Mm.
What is your perspective on? We'll start it at the 50-50 conversation,
Mm-hmm.
where for some people they think that that's what makes practical sense.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think that I could never. Uh, Love to hear your perspective, your thoughts as a married man of 20 plus years.
Mm-hmm. I wish my wife would make Gabrielle Union money. I'll tell you what. I really,
Okay.
yeah, man, go ahead. If you taking that off me, cool.
Mm-hmm.
I got enough.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So if you definitely come in with the bread like that, like have at it. But don't make that change you. Just still be you. You know what I'm saying? Like don't let that change your thought process. Like, well, because I bring home
Mm-hmm.
this, and that, that automatically gives me authority. You know, maybe it's different for somebody like her because when those two people met, she already had all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna see it differently because like let's say when we moved. All right, here's a good one. Like so when we moved here to Charlotte, it wasn't for me. I was cool where I was at. I was the one making this dollar up here, and hers was down here.
Mm-hmm.
So we came down here. That totally switched. We
Mm-hmm.
moved here so that she could progress in what she was in her line of business.
Right.
That was the whole purpose of coming here. You know. And with that, it didn't change nothing inside my house because we were still the right frame of people because it was still on some, let's make this here work. So
Mm-hmm.
man, for her to take that, for her to do that, or even, you know what, to me, like you had enough bread, like you probably should have kept that thought to yourself, even if that's what you felt like you was
Definitely
doing.
should have. It
You
was.
should have shut the hell up there and not put that out into the ether that way.
I agree
Because
100%.
there's a lot of younger women and there's a lot of women out there that we don't need to add that battery, which has already been started by somebody who is successful to, because I make the money, I get to do this, or this is the reasoning why I did this. No, you did this because you a fucked up individual.
Right.
That was the bottom line to that.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't. You don't have to have money to do something stupid.
Mm-hmm.
You
Facts.
know what I'm saying? Like this, the money's just going to enhance who you really are. And if I was in that position, I was like, I probably wouldn't deal with somebody like you.
Yeah. So I guess two pieces of clarity. So one, because again, this is a popular point that I hear. So from what I hear, you do care about your woman's like bringing something financially to the table.
Yeah, it's for the yeah.
Perfect. All right. And in essence, it also sounds like when it comes to like the 50-50 conversation, you're more so along the lines of like figure out what works for you.
what works for us.
Yeah, my bad. So what works for y'all as a
Yeah,
couple? By
yeah.
you, yeah.
Us is a very key word
Mm-hmm.
when, especially when
Facts.
we do relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the focus does have to
Mm-hmm.
be the us
Mm-hmm.
and the we. You know what I mean? What are you? A lot of people using these acronyms, the theys, the we's now. You know what I'm saying?
No,
So
yeah.
Uh
what
oh.
are they?
Hey, we're not trying to get
We
Is it a
canceled.
Hold on.
pronoun?
yeah,
We're
no, no,
trying to make
no.
it
Is that
simple.
I'm not familiar with the
yeah, so like I mean, I see you gotta be careful with the words, but you know, because now we may mean something different now. You know what I'm saying? For all I know, but
Yeah.
but yeah, that those words they got to be there within inside the thought process, because then you're not gonna have it so much where it's like I'm bringing this and I have that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
There's
saying?
no over sense of entitlement.
No, no, no.
I like it. Johnny, what you got?
I was gonna say I think that was a good conversation. I don't know if real if anybody else had anything else to add
Mm-hmm.
I'm loving it. I'm
to
loving
it.
it. That you can hear the seasoning. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's coming from a place. You know what I mean? I love it. I
like that
love it.
cast iron that your grandmama had.
Yeah, yeah, right, right, right.
That
The
cast
facts.
iron that your grandmama
The
had. But
facts.
I definitely like where we went with it. I think we definitely got some good answers out of Marquette, and I think that'd be a good place to put a pin in it.
Mm-hmm.
Go to Q. He has a response from our IG page off
At
one
the
of the
To Be
questions
Fair
we
show.
posed this week. Follow the To Be Fair show.
I had to respond though because I've talked to a lot of people about this, and I feel like the way we raise our boys, our young men, and our young women is so very different. They're socialized so very different. But to me, it's more so from the perspective of like discipline. It's like I know in my family, the boys were allowed to do a whole lot more than the girls. There was a lot less accountability for the boys in my family, and a lot of them turned out to not, just not be doing well. You know what I mean? Like my aunts, a lot of times tried to shield and protect the boys from their fathers when they started getting into trouble, and obviously that didn't end well. And with the girls, with me and my cousins, they were strict with us, like we weren't allowed to do much of anything, but at the same time, we were taught to be very independent. Don't depend on a man to do this or that for you. Get your education, secure a good job, work hard, da 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 da. But none of the energy for the boys.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm not gonna lie, like a lot of my cousins are bums because of that. So that may not be like directly related to what was being discussed in that video, but that's what it reminds me of. And at the same time, do I feel like we should treat boys and girls the same? No, but not in the sense of, spoil your daughters, but don't spoil your sons. Like, no, boys need love, they need affection too, but everyone needs to be taught responsibility. Everyone needs to be taught accountability. And I do think we should do a better job of teaching them, teaching girls how to be wives and teaching the boys how to be good husbands and fathers, and teaching the girls how to be good wives and mothers, because that's just lacking, I think, on both sides. And it's really unfortunate. And I think, you can see the evidence of it in our community now. So not that I'm, trying to give you a clip for your podcast or whatever, but it's just a topic I kind
That's
of
what it
feel
is.
strongly about because I've seen it a lot, in my personal life and in my own family. So it's my little 2 cents.
What say y'all, fellas?
Hey, shout out to who? What's her name?
Sade.
Sade. Shout out to
Shout out,
Sade for
Sade.
giving us, her opinion, lending us her opinion.
Good perspective.
It is. It is. I'm not mad at it. I did one thing. The thing that stood out to me was when she stated that like the boys aren't taught accountability, like the girls are taught accountability. I do think that naturally
So
mothers.
I asked her a little bit to this, and she said that her family was matriarchal.
Mm,
So I guess that might be a part to kind of like put into it as well.
okay.
Where you then have the mama's boy type of thing, and then
I
Mm.
think
whatever.
that
But
goes into it.
See, and see the thing. See, when it comes down to boys, we have to have something to see. I think that's where we're lacking most is something to see that vision of what this thing looks like aside from television. Yeah, a lot of us, and like me, I mean, well, shoot, damn, that's crazy. All three of y'all come from two-parent households.
Mm-hmm.
That's dope. That's dope. Well, and for my scenario, like I didn't get to actually visually see um this this level of accountability or this level of like pretty much what it the acceptance of responsibility and you know what I mean, all the things that being a man entailed, then being a husband and a father, you know what I mean? A lot of us don't get to see these things, so it's a lot easier for a mother to show a girl, a daughter, what this looks like. You know what I
It's
mean? And then
yeah.
if a father, we don't have that structure that's in your face to see, and you've actually seen your mother grow. It's not only just I think that seeing a man grow in your face is very important for us because other than that, you're super freestyling. You're super freestyling. Then your homeboys are freestyling. Then you're so much easier to be coerced into doing things that you would not do if that standard had been set for you. You know what I mean? So I think that is a big thing. And then also being raised as a man child, being raised in a matriarchal family, that also, you know what I mean, that you really don't know much about what is expected of you. You know what I mean, as a man.
Well, and I think also like the family dynamic goes a lot to it too, because she said she was matriarchal, and that's why she felt like the boys didn't necessarily get the
When her
account
family was matriarchal.
matriarch. But I feel the opposite way as far as like I come from more of a patriarchal, family, and I felt like it was the exact opposite. Where I felt like I had to hold more accountability. I had to be like
Hmm.
the man, and I had to do that. And I got, my sister's older than me, so I can't really speak on her. But like my nieces, they're younger than me, and I felt like they had a little more, freedom as far as just able to, make certain mistakes and not necessarily have the same punishment or same consequences when I made said mistakes. But I think it comes down just to the family dynamic though, and also like I think my family is mostly women. So it's hard for like if there's two guys and six women to try to hold all the women
Yeah.
accountable versus the guys, and especially if you're a guy, you know how to hold a man the same way with if it's a matriarchal situation, and and you know how to hold the women accountable. It's
Right.
kind of harder for you as a woman to tell a man how to be a man. So it's harder for a man to tell a woman how to be a woman.
Right.
So I think that goes a lot into it. But I mean, I think just to the question as far as raising your sons there, I think there should be a little bit of you know, difference in how you raise, men versus women. They're different. They're going to experience life, like DJ
For
said.
sure.
They're going to experience and perceive the world totally different. So you got to tailor. And I think it's just with not just men and women, but every child is different. You got to kind of tailor how you going to raise. I don't think it's one size fits all for anybody. Everybody's going to have their own little nuances and different ways that they're going to need to be, addressed and communicated with. So I think it's just about just looking at the child for who he is, or she is, and just raising them for that, not necessarily having any rules or
Gotcha.
anything.
So in essence, you'll say that every child should be raised uniquely different.
According to who they are, yeah.
I think that when we take out of when we take out gender specific things, I think boys and girls should be raised the same. That's my opinion. I think that in the past that we've given like boys deficits of love and affection, different things like that. We've given women traditionally like deficits of accountability and things like that. Where making just good, well-rounded humans outside of the literal sense of like I said, the gender specific things, raising them all with all of those things: love, affection, accountability, responsibility.
Facts.
I think that that's like the very big, to me. That I think that that's what's most important than like using baby hands for like a guy inside this thing, and then baby hands for a woman inside this thing, because of like some like societal standard of whatever.
Well, society's changing too, so
Right.
the roles that men and women traditionally had in marriages have changed. So if you're thinking, you're raising a daughter to be what a wife was 20, 30 years ago, that's not necessarily what a wife's going to be
For
20
sure.
years from now. So you need to
Right.
And
raise
it
her to
could
be
definitely be for her, to
a
her detriment.
solid human being, just, outside of whatever role she's going to play. She just need to be a solid in whatever role she needs to play, he or she, then they'll be able to play it. So that's just my thing.
Nah, that's a fact. Automation fucking up the family.
Yeah. Kid, how you feeling about that?
There was something there that she had said in regards to when the boys would do something and she watched how her aunt would step in to protect from the father. I sat there while she was talking, and unfortunately, like stayed stuck on that point because I immediately started to think when she said that now today they're not doing well and they're not doing this and they're not, they have a lot of shortcomings. And I'm like, what do you think those moments did to them boys, you protecting them?
Yeah.
What crutch did you create for them?
Just to clear, not
not-
her. What she seen from her.
Well, I'm just saying, like, just using
Okay, I got
this,
you.
that as a person, because I'm sure that happens in a lot of homes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, what do you, just from those moments alone, what did that do with them boys, as it's done with many other ones, where it's like, the females coming in showing to be the more pillar of a strength or something like that. I'm going to protect you from this and I'm going to protect you from that, you know, because that's going to be a metaphor that's going to carry on inside your life later on.
What's that going
You
to look
know,
at?
Yeah, Steve Harvey
Like,
said something
you
about
know,
that in one of his joints, and it was a lady that posed a question that was talking about how the exact same scenario, how she feels like her husband was disciplining the boys too hard sometimes, so she come in and you know what I mean, get in the way of him disciplining the boys. And Steve pretty much was like, do you respect the husband that you have?
yeah,
You know what I mean? Is he a good man? Then why are you in the way of him teaching his sons how to be good
to
men
be
like
good
he
men.
is?
And
So
that's where I was sitting there thinking, like, you know what? I tried to reflect, to make it personal. When did mom come through and save me from pop? She didn't. She encouraged it to go on. Your dad's going to whoop your ass when you get home.
Mom Deuce was
You're
coming
going
through
you're
here.
to take that.
Mom Deuce used to brag
So
about it too.
what did
Hey,
he
just
do?
wait till your daddy get home.
Yeah.
Was you really a kid in a black household and got in trouble if you had not been woken up in the middle of the night when your dad got home with that fire?
Oh yeah, that. Oh yeah,
With that fire.
that'd be a fire drill, boy. That's
You be
your.
like, ain't that? Listen, you can be drunk, you can be high. Ain't nothing out of the world. Like when you wake up, you have no idea what's going on. Like life be like you don't have no sense of anything, and then
With that belt on your ass.
Yeah.
you start remembering real
You be
quick.
like, hold on, wait a minute. What's that?
Yeah, you start becoming accountable. You start becoming more responsible. So by you protecting it, quote unquote, protecting them from it, later on, they're not their level of accountability doesn't exist. Something's supposed to swoop in here and protect me from this because I didn't have to deal with it.
And then it becomes, it's not my fault.
It's
the
not my
world.
fault.
It's the
Oh,
world.
It's the
yeah.
world's fault. And then what are you doing to your men?
Victimhood.
So nah, I definitely raised mine, you know,
In order to be saved, you
there
got
ain't
to
no
be a
one
victim.
size fit all. Definitely not. Like you said, though, there should be an initial, love of a human being, and but once we get beyond that, let me teach you how to be a man.
For sure.
Because there's going to be a lot that you're going to be responsible for. You know what I mean? The success of your family, the success of your partnership. Like, there's a lot you're going to have to step in and endure. So take this ass whooping now. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, the world's gonna give it to you later, and you ain't gonna know how to react from because somebody done came in and pulled you away real quick.
And I think the same is for women and daughters too. I think you gotta let women teach their daughters how to be women, because that's something none of us up here have any concept of. Like, there's
Yeah.
certain
Right.
things that, like, as a woman, like, I can't help you with. Like,
Right.
you're gonna need your mom.
Facts.
That's
Like,
why I think that the fair part of the conversation will be starting to get outside of things that are gender specific.
right.
Yeah, but I think that she was literally gender specific.
Yeah,
And her whole thing was
the
gender
whole thing.
specific.
Oh well, no. All right. So yeah, I think that she was saying how the downfall of raising them differently was though, because it like she in essence she called her people's bums, right? Like the guys.
Yeah.
because they was raised differently than the girls was, and then the girls had more accountability.
Right,
But
but that was
we
also
see that spent a lot of, I mean, the other way a lot of times as well, where women aren't held at the same level of accountability. So then, like they might not have all this shit together, and guys are held to this high esteem. And
That happens.
Or it's the opposite.
right.
But we're all the same. It's just it manifests in different ways with men and women. So a bum dude versus a woman who was raised in a certain situations, you might not look at her as a
right.
bum woman, but
it's a
they're
level of
still
handicap.
bum. Yeah, it's a
Well,
handicap.
no,
a level of handicap.
but I think so. It's one of those. So we have this conversation a lot where we be like, so a bum dude is a specific thing, and a bum woman is a different thing. We talk a lot about like how men and women are different. There are differences in them, and like even if we talk about like the value in which they present inside a lot of different ways. So I think that a bum woman looks different than a bum man.
That's what
a
I'm
bum man
saying.
Yeah,
is
that's
like
what
he has
he's
deficits.
saying.
No, that's what I was because a
Right.
bum dude might be on the street homeless. A bum woman, it's hard to find a homeless woman.
Right, but that's not a bum woman.
Exactly.
A bum woman,
Exactly.
if we do an equal comparison, would be a woman probably got 5, 6 kids at like 25 work, like she pimping the welfare system X, Y, and Z.
But she gonna be
Well, like that would be the appropriate equivalent in comparison to like saying like a woman that's on the street. You ain't gonna really find it because
Right.
that's not really what a bum woman that has lack of responsibility and accountability.
But it's the same though. Like a homeless man and a woman, like in Section 8 with 5 kids. You'll look at the guy and be like, "Damn, that's a bum," and then you look at the woman and independent. Well, there's a lot of other terms besides bum woman that'll go.
Well, I don't look at independent women being a bum woman.
But
So
you'll see a woman
you
that's on. You'll see a woman that's like making it happen, like on with 4 or 5 kids, and you won't sit there and be like, "Oh, she's a bum." Like
if a woman is making it happen with 4 or 5 kids, I think that's different than being a woman that is relying on assistance and men as a woman. Like, I think that those
I'm saying
definitely
even
different.
some of those women still get put in that independent women category, even though they're relying on
All right,
men and women.
I guess
That's all I'm saying. Yeah, no, but I'm saying, but even some of
because
those
we say
women,
like a really broad term.
but I'm saying even specifically some of those women that are relying, they will get to use I'm an independent. Like they get more of a pass than
You're
a
not
guy.
independent if you are relying on the state for welfare.
You're dependent. You are dependent.
Yeah, so that's what I'm, like. So I don't want to sweep the women that are doing the thing, where like they have the job and they're like quote unquote like what we classify as independent. I think whether we want to say an independent woman is good or bad, I wouldn't put her as bum.
Oh, absolutely not. He wasn't. I don't think that
No,
he
what
was
I'm
ever.
saying-
No, he used the word independent.
no,
but he was. Yeah,
all I'm
he
saying
wasn't
is
meaning
bum
that.
women sometimes get a pass, and where bum men don't. Bum women can. There's a lot of passes as a woman
and as
if
we
you're a
said-
bum versus a man if you're a bum.
And as we said that also that is another way is where as a man child you have to understand this thing. You're not gonna have
do
this.
that.
You're not gonna have this handicap that's gonna.
They're
come
not going
in
to give
and
you
save
Section 8 and give you a place to stay.
Not gonna
You're
have
not
that.
going to do that.
You're
That's
not gonna
be
have
for
that.
women.
So you need to, and just like the whole either way, you're not gonna have this level of cushion that
That's
the society's just gonna give you. It's not gonna happen. So you need to understand that it's on you. You know what I mean? Make those decisions based on the fact that is the reality. Ain't no savior for you, bro. You know what I mean? And I think that's another thing with Pops being there. Like, I think that naturally we'll teach that as men. I think naturally because it's our reality. It's one of the realities that we all share that is very natural to pass down. So that's why, like I said, I think that
That's the
the
reason.
man that man being there, I think it's man.
I'm
Both
heavy
parents
advocate
being
of the
around, both parents
two-family
being around.
household.
It's important.
Yeah, but even if you're not in the household together, just the dynamic of being able to see the same sex and the opposite sex grow in a way that you know what I mean from a pure because your parents should love you. So the things that they push into you should come from a place of love. So just being able to see them grow and seeing like the differences between the two and the
Yeah.
approach of the two, and there's some knowledge and gems that come from both sides.
Both
Whether
sides.
he got money or he don't. There's still some gems that can be dropped down into young boy. You know what I mean? There's some lessons that he can learn. You
Well, I
know
was
what I
gonna say, I
mean?
always think of it like this. It comes to like the stove is hot. Like both your parents love you, but they're gonna react to that situation differently. Where your
Differently.
mama gonna be like, "Don't touch the stove. It's hot. It's hot." Your pop's gonna be like, "Boy, don't touch it. It's hot." When you touch the stove, bird, that was hot. Mama, oh, it's okay. I told you not to do it. Pops, look, I told you not to touch it. You touched it. There,
And I'm
there's
just gonna come with some butter and
but
some
there's love
stuff
in
to put
both of
on
them. But
it
there's love in both of those
for sure.
situations. It's not like either one of them lack love. It's just a different type of
Approach.
love. But it's both love that as human beings to be complete. You need both. You need that nurturing from your mom, but you also need that accountability from your dad. Hey, you know what hot is right now. Hot is hot.
Yeah, and I'm
Don't
coming
touch.
to agree with as the pod is continuing on, I'm coming to agree with a lot more of that. You know what I mean? The idea that, well, I mean, just in general, that there is a level of nurturing that your dad does or should do. You know what I mean? There's a level of nurturing that he does and should do, while also with that level of accountability. And it's on both sides, mom and dad both, because we definitely have a different way of showing that we have a different way of
But if you
parenting, so
got
to
but if you
say.
got both parents, I don't think one parent should do something that's like if your dad's not as naturally nurturing, but your mom is. I don't think he should have to go out his way to be. And
No, I
that's what
think
the
that
team. That's what the
I think
team is
that
But
for.
if we're talking about the evolution of what men should look like,
yeah,
I think that seeing your father do that is probably also healthy.
healthy. Yeah, I'd
I mean,
agree.
I mean, I,
Yeah, we can't like if we're speaking inside like the idea of progression, we can't like stay stuck to a lot of like
no, I mean,
old ways or whatnot, in which we know isn't the most beneficial because we
Hmm.
critique the fact that how we were raised as men and not showing emotion X, Y, and Z inside like a whole like a wholesale form when we talk about men.
I
So
don't
if that
necessarily
if that
criticize.
is true, then we have to evolve
No,
as
and I get
fathers.
you.
I don't necessarily criticize the way I was raised because, like I said, I came two parent with the things where my dad didn't necessarily. As far as like that nurturing, I got that from my mom. So
Hmm.
that's the importance of having two parent household. 'Cause no, I don't think it's impossible for one person to be everything for somebody. That's why you have both your mom and your dad because
Hmm.
there's certain things women are going to be better at, men are going to be better
Naturally.
at. So to say that a man like I get it, where you should strive to do that, but that's the importance of having both parents
Right, but
there.
my thing is just like I'm only saying that it's important that you try,
Yeah.
and I think that that's the part. Like, may the mother be better at that? Yes, but not trying to also like humanize being a man is probably not the best thing as
I
well.
mean, I get
Yeah,
that,
no,
but I
and it's
get
crazy
that.
because like we're moving the idea of like the modern space. The modern space is definitely,
It's different.
especially for the archetype like your pops. You know what I mean? How you say like he wouldn't. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be good out here for him. You know what I mean? And that's just like me trying to look at like the just kind of to understand this modern, you know what I mean, role thing that we're this change that's happening, this shift that's happening. And I'm not saying that it's a negative. There are there are a good bit of negative that come with it, but there's you know what I mean. There's some negatives that come with both sides. There's some negatives that come with the traditional thing. There's some
Oh,
negatives
for
that come with
sure.
the modern thing. I don't know which one trumps the other, which I don't honestly think either trumps the other. It's all about, you know what I mean, what your situation is and what y'all agree on, and you know what I mean,
And
what's
what your values
communicated.
are.
Yeah, but yeah, and I definitely I understand what you said. You know what I mean. At the end of the day, you feel like your pops did a good job.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
criticizing or saying, oh, he could have. Nah, bro did
right.
everything he could and did a damn good job. So for me to
Hmm.
say, oh, he could have did X, Y, and Z to be better, I don't really see that. Like,
One thing
I
I can
don't.
say, bro, is that like, and this is something how I critique myself is that like I could always do more.
Right, and
I
that's
could
what I was
always
just
do
about to
more, and I
say.
feel like with my pops and my moms too, like there always could have been more
Yeah, you
done.
can. I get that. You can always do more, but I also got a certain type of empathy. I know that. I know that man and what he done been through, and he
Yeah,
did the
yeah, yeah.
best he fucking could. Like he didn't like. Yes, he.
And
Hey,
I don't like
really.
that statement either. The best, like when I think, did I do the best that I could? Like because I always think that I could have done better. There's no way I
You
did the
don't think it's
best
some
that I
people that
could.
do the best that they could?
No, I think that most people
I'm saying.
also while they're
I
on the
think,
plane
bro.
of doing that, they're also making excuses for shit along the way. You know what I
And
mean? They're also
that's
not accepting different portions of responsibility along the way. That's just natural. That's just natural. So it wasn't the best. I ain't talking about your I'm talking about like me and people in general. I think we gotta these words and phrases that we use are counterproductive.
I don't
They're-
think so. Well, to me, I disagree with both of y'all, but I disagree at different points. So I think that his father probably did the best that he could with the information that he knew, and like the effort that he could give. And I think that we put unrealistic goals up when we don't believe that with the information that we know that we're doing the best if you are actually trying. Because of can you do better once you have more information? For sure. Definitely. And so I guess with Johnny, to me, it kind of goes into that same exact lane where your father, the fact that your father did as good as he can, I think that is a blessing that you don't have to have resentments and different things like that. Is there things that from any generation, everything is an evolution. So are there things that you could take and things that you might do away with and be like, I could probably implement another strategy that might
Yeah,
work?
I mean, I think there's
Then
things. I think there's things I could do better.
right,
Building on
but
that.
that's literally the only thing that we're talking. It's not again. It's hard for me to critique my mother or father because of they were inside a space with the information that they had,
Right.
and as long as I know that they were with a good heart and intention trying to do the best.
And
that
that's
they
all I'm
could,
saying. It's just hard for me to sit there and criticize.
it's hard for me to hold resentment.
Yeah.
Because of I know the evolution of people. I know I don't even think the same that I thought 2 months ago. So if I'm holding a person in judgment of what they knew at that moment, and this is pre-information
20,
age.
30 years ago.
Yeah, pre-information age. Well, niggas had to look up in encyclopedias better parenting practices than looking on fucking Instagram and different
had to go to the library and get on that Dewey Decimal System.
Right. So for me, I have a certain level of empathy for older parents for sure because of they raised us with a explicit lack of information, and most of them were just parenting what we can now say bad habits from their grandparents and their grandparents, which were we can say unhealthy now, but again. We are privileged with the privilege of an excessive amount of information, and them people didn't have it.
And let me just clarify when I say the best. What I don't like about the best as you could. For me, I don't think I've done anything the best that I could do it. I don't feel like I've ever
That's a harsh personal critique.
Yeah.
Maxed out everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I always know
but
I could have got better. I could have did I don't feel like where I ever was maxed out. In the military.
I'm saying, but could you at that point in that time when you did that? Could you? You can look back with more information.
Give you an example. So when I was in the military, right? I didn't know before the military that you could run until you throw up. I ain't know that was a thing. So I was quitting way before that because I ain't never even threw up before. You see what I'm saying? So then you get to throwing up and then realize, nigga, you still can run. Do you see what I'm saying? But so that's the way I interpret the best that I could do. I think
that was information that you learned after,
right?
No, but I still was in the midst of doing it though.
But you're judging yourself based on lack of information.
Such an excessive, unrealistic expectation to put on anything.
Me
saying I guess a test has a finite amount because you can get 100. But anything that doesn't have a finite ending, you can always literally do better.
Right, and that's my only point. So,
but the thing is, could you have done better with what you knew at that moment
and who you were?
Right. So if we use the running thing, right? So if at the moment I knew that if I run until I get Charlie horses and cramps and X, Y, and Z, at that moment until you got put onto more information,
until you didn't really. I can see your point.
That's my only thing. That it would be really, really hard to judge yourself prior, based off the information that you know now.
Currently,
you can't take that information.
Yeah.
Hindsight is always 20/20.
Then also, there's oftentimes where you purposely know that this isn't the decision I should make and still make it.
Well, but then I think that's a different scenario.
But I mean, but also that's a very human thing that we've all done.
I'm saying, but when you're running and you haven't thrown up yet and you quit and you're like, man, damn, I done ran. That's not you making it purposely. At this moment,
you know that that's not the best that you could do. If you did it
you
to
thought
the best
that
of your
at that point
information.
you thought that was the best,
right?
Yeah. So like I said, I understand and understand the position. You know what I mean? I still feel like even in live time, oftentimes we do know the better answer, and we do the convenient one. So, and we'll do that a lot of the times. Like, I think that that's a natural thing. You want it to be as easy as possible. You're not going to just choose the hardest answer, even though you know, damn, that just
Well,
makes
then I
more
don't
sense.
like
You know what I
said
mean? A lot of the
person
times
didn't
we
do the
do
best that
that.
they could if they did that.
But I think that most people have done. Well, what are we talking about? Like, that is very
You know what I'm
human.
saying?
All right,
But I
forget
think
you got
there
to
are
get
people
more.
that have done their best with the stuff. We talking about, I'm bringing it back to fathers, and you just like,
Mm-hmm.
well, it's always, you could always do better. Some people just couldn't.
Let's fucking agree to disagree. I'm not. I ain't putting that. I ain't got no. I feel like that's we kind of excuse. In my opinion, there's a lot of times where people use that. I'm not saying everybody in the world, but a lot of people use that. I did the best I could as a cop out to not to. It's almost like a lot of the times I don't want to actually sit and live with that decision that I knew I was making when I made the motherfucker, and I knew that this was gonna be, but I actually chose this in this scenario, and I know myself I've done that. And if everybody in here ain't done that shit, bro, but
Everybody,
maybe I'm goddamn. I'm
But
just
beyond that perspective is very situational in a way of there's a lot of people that coming up at it, and like y'all brought up about different time periods. You know what I mean? And unless you're there to know what that person's going through, you don't know what their best was. So it'd be unfair for me or anyone else at not living that to judge that, to say yes you did or no you didn't. I didn't feel that. You know what I mean? The human aspect, like you said, yeah, there's a lot of things I know that I may have complained about that. You know what? I did do that half-assed and I got a half-assed result out of it. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't my best, you
and
know,
that's all I'm saying right there. That's just my only piece
you
right
know.
there. But
But
I
I'm
But
not
get
that's the
gonna
hindsight piece.
I'm not gonna judge though,
yeah,
you know
but
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
that's my
But
thing.
my
How
my
much of it is
father's
hindsight?
past mistakes, you know what I'm saying?
Oh
Like
yeah.
I couldn't even compare to it because number one, we're two different men in two greatly different scenarios.
Yeah, different
Even
time
though they
periods.
may sort of seem the same, and you can say, well, yeah, this happened with me, so I can identify with it. The whole time has shifted. You know what I mean? Talking to a 15, 16-year-old, I'm just giving it as an example, is way different than talking to a 15-year-old from even in my generation and the one before that. And because of like what you brought up, the amount of information, the level of pushback that you get from a child that's been overly informed as a parent or an adult is crazy. It's crazy. You can't tell them nothing because they done heard it all already. There's no mystery anymore to what's going
Out there.
on.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? So it's like when you're getting parented from like an older person, and you brought up a good point when you said the mistakes of your own grandmother. You know what I mean? Kind of.
Yeah, and I get what you mean.
Like I didn't even think about it that way. Like, damn, grandmom, you did mess up. You
Like
know what I'm
grandmama
saying? You
making
telling
mistakes
me,
is a
you know what I'm
foreign
saying?
concept. Like
Like,
grandmama made mistakes.
yeah,
Yeah.
like because by the time you're
Like what
acknowledging
the
and
fuck?
knowing them, that's big mama. There ain't no mistaking that
Yeah,
pie right there. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
ain't
Like,
no
Nah, that pie ain't got
mistake.
no mistake.
Yeah.
nah, the pie ain't got no
Yeah, for
mistakes. The
sure.
mistake was though she ain't cut her nails. You know what I'm
Grandma,
saying? Like, and
man,
you
my
just
grandmama was
hand, you know
perfect,
what I'm
bro.
saying?
Ain't
Like,
got no
but
criticism on
we
nothing.
were a lot more willing to accept those imperfections is what made it perfect to us, depending on how it was given to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
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 So
that's
yeah.
facts.
to try to even parent or adult, like we talked about something one time before where the accountability of youth and stuff like that. And I know it sounds like old where, your neighbor could discipline you
Yeah.
and let your mama know that they disciplined you. And your mom didn't react like, don't put your hands on my kid. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
that whole
those were the
level
better days.
is, I mean, we'll view it as better days, but the youth today does not view that as a better day. They view that as that was a form of abuse that you should have never suffered, and that's why you're having mental problems right now. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, what?
I think it's
There
all
ain't
how you
nothing
take
wrong
it,
with me.
though.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
think it's all how you take
You
it.
hit nail on the head. Ting ding.
I definitely think it's all because like I grew up in that generation where like if I was over like my friend's house
Yeah.
and I did something wrong, their parents could discipline me,
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
they,
that's
and
true.
if they couldn't, I wouldn't be over there. And that was something, but like I don't think that's abuse and like I
no,
mean
I'm saying the ones today would
Would
view
look at
it.
it
They would
as
take it and put it on that extreme level because anything outside of my house has taught me something. You know what I'm saying? Like when I messed up, or when you messed up as a youth, then that level of discipline or even that level of love, even if you did something good, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And your neighbor bigged you up for it on something that you did, they saw you handle a certain situation, you know what I mean? Let's say you do have a two-parent at home, but there ain't no love in the house. But then Miss, Laney from across the street is the one showing you the real love.
Mm-hmm.
The village is still raising the children. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Well, you've taken that away now.
yeah.
You
I
know
think
what I
there was a
mean?
level of that level of community, and it was a trust that we had
It
amongst
was a
each other.
trust.
That it was a level of trust that's like, okay, I know that the people around me that look like me are not going to go.
Shit on me.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not going to OD on. There was a sense of love and trust. You know what I mean? You look like me, I love you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though there was, spats and everything that naturally would
I
happen.
mean,
And I would say specifically amongst women in those
Mm-hmm.
communities, I think men would like call you out or something and tell you something, but like women had a different level of camaraderie and leadway and respect for one another that, you would expect that like, yeah, she's not gonna, you know what I mean? She wants
Yeah.
the best for my youngin.
and I
Mm-hmm.
think what that comes from, and I ain't gonna speak for no other communities, but in our community, especially like from what I've heard from my grandparents and my parents back in the '60s and stuff, was there was a real enemy out there.
Mm.
Like we knew what it was. There were certain
Mm-hmm.
places like our parents, bathrooms they couldn't use and stuff.
Mm.
So when you're dealing with that like blatant,
Uh-oh. We about to go. We
when
about to
you're dealing
go.
with it blatant,
Uh-oh.
I take it there. I don't
Wait a
care.
minute.
I take it there. I don't care. But when you dealing with that out there,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
blatant, and then you come and your community is naturally gonna be stronger
Mm.
because
We got the same
we all got
idea
the
of the
same
enemy.
enemy.
Yeah, I
But
can see
then
what you
once
mean.
you have post integration and they done split us all up and it's
Oh,
different
they done turned
fractions,
Johnny Black.
the community is harder to identify the community. And that's why you don't feel comfortable with some dude disciplining your kids now because you don't feel he's a part of your community. Where 60 years ago the community was very easy to define. But nowadays it's hard to define that community. I think that's just something we just need to focus on. It's just
Yeah,
you
where your
know,
community
knowing
in
your
most
community, building
cases
it,
was a lot less diverse.
and just building building them communities. But I think that was we'll go to Q. I think he got.
I would like to give a big shout out to uh, one of the guys that helped me inside my maturation and evolution of a manhood would be my old band director, Walter Suggs at
Shout
Philip
out
O'Berry.
Suggs. God.
He won I think it's like the Barry Manilow Music Educator Award. And again, like he's definitely one of the stand up men
For sure.
that I've seen. He's married for a multiple amount of years. I'm sure it's up
Father.
inside like the 20-30 range. He's an amazing father. I still see
Sure.
him on weekends. His son and my son's the same age, and they play basketball. So I actually have the privilege of sitting and talking to him consistently still.
They're the same
And
age?
yeah, they're the same exact age.
That's
They
crazy.
played on the same team for years as well.
That's
I
crazy.
coached Suggs' son for about 2 or 3 years for sure.
That's
But
crazy.
nonetheless, a big shout out to him.
For sure.
Congrats to Mr. Suggs.
Goaded.
Again, we appreciate you. You got 3 alumni of literally your teachings.
For sure.
And yeah, that's my only little thing that I want to like actually put into before we kind of throw away and
Yeah, nah, Suggs, we love you, man. You goaded out here.
Nah, shout out Mr. Suggs. Shout out that guy, Mr. Suggs. I ain't know you, but if these guys say you like
yeah.
that, you gotta be like that. Follow us on YouTube at B2B Fair Show. I am your host, Johnny P.
Oh, here, real.
it's Q.
Special guest Marquette,
For sure. Appreciate you, brother.
and
Thank you.
we out.